I've been training for nearly 20 years, and in that time period, I've been a professional rugby player, natural bodybuilder, and I've helped train over 500 people both face to face and online. And here are the top 5 mistakes that I see in the gym. First mistake is spending too much time in their warm up and being too inefficient with their warm ups. Now, if you've ever done a general warm up before, where you've done maybe a bike effort into some static stretching, some foam rolling, some activation, and then gone into your actual exercise, they've shown that it's no more beneficial than just going straight into your actual exercise and doing more what they call a specific warm up. Okay. Now, specific warm up is, say, if you have a bench press first up, you'll jump straight under the bar, slowly work your way up in weight, warm up your muscles until you're ready to do your working weight. Now, if you like general warm-ups and you feel better, obviously jumping on the bike, doing some foam rolling, whatever the case may be, then you continue to do those, but just don't feel like you should have to do them. Now, the main reason that people are bottlenecked when it comes to their training is more from the time that they have to allocate to that. If you have 40 minutes 3 times a week, don't waste 10 minutes of those doing some random foam rolling or some sort of activation drill, which isn't going to be more beneficial for your performance or even injury prevention. Now, even when it comes to the specific warm up, I feel like a lot of people still waste a little bit of time. Now, have you ever jumped on, say, an exercise like the bench press, done a set of 8 at 60, a set of 8 at 80, a set of 8 at 100, and then say a set of 8 at 120, and then called it a day? Now, you may be wasting your time. Let me explain. When it comes to muscle growth, how close we take that set to failure is probably one of the most important factors for muscle growth. Now, if that set of 120 for 8 took you close to failure, then you need to be doing multiple sets of that, and that the other 3 sets were a little bit of a waste of time, not only just in the sense of muscle growth, but even in the sense of warm up. So what I would recommend for your warm up protocol, by doing a set of 60 kilos for 8 to 10 reps, this is going to help you warm up the muscles, warm up the joints, just grease everything up so that everything feels just a lot better. Then do a set of 90 at 4 to 6 reps. This is going to allow you to get a little bit more used to heavy weight, and also you can start to practice that movement pattern under a bit of heavy weight. So start to think about moving quickly, getting into that stretch position, opening everything up, and eventually progressing over time. Then lastly, you would do a set of 120, so at the working weight, for 2 to 3 reps. Now, sounds kind of weird. If you're ready to do your working weight, why wouldn't you just go into it? Well, if you've ever done your first set and felt like it felt a bit off, or it felt really heavy, especially compared to last week, and then you did your second set only to feel even better. Main reason for this being is because your tendons and your muscles weren't ready for that heavy load. That is why you incorporate your working weight in your last warm-up set for just 2 to 3 reps to get the body used to that weight, so that when you go into your first set, you're firing, you're ready to go, and it's going to be your best set yet. And we want to make sure that we're doing multiple sets at that weight, especially if it's taking us close to failure, because that is what is going to result in muscle growth. Now, what if your next exercise is, say, a dumbbell incline press? Okay, we're working the same muscle group. Do we need to go through all of those warm-up sets? Short answer to this is no. Okay, we can just go into our last set. We just grab our working weight, do 2, 3, maybe even 4 reps, just till the movement starts to feel good and we start to get used to that working weight. Take a little break, then go straight into the working sets. Okay, there's no point going through and trying to warm up the muscle's already warm. However, if you are doing, say, back for your next one, it's a new muscle group, so therefore we have to go through the full warm-up protocol to make sure that when we get to our working sets, the muscle is going to be ready, and we're going to make sure that we're preventing injury as well. Mistake number 2 is not training hard enough. Now, there is a small group of people that go in, tick the box, maybe don't train hard enough, but I feel like if you're watching this video, majority of you guys would train fairly hard. However, I don't think that you train sufficiently hard enough across all the exercises, okay? This is something that I've seen a lot, especially when it came to face-to-face clients, is they would always hit their key lifts hard, okay? So bench press, chin-ups, hip thrusts, deadlift, squats, maybe leg press, maybe bent over row, okay? These more primary lifts that you would see, they would hit them hard, try to progress at them. But when it came to something like a chest fly or shoulders, like a lateral raise, calves, hamstrings, hamstring curls, something like that, they wouldn't hit that as hard, okay? When we're doing our exercises and we're planning out our week and allocating sets, Every set is just as important as each other. So we need to make sure that we're pushing all of those sets within 2 reps of failure. As I spoke about in the last mistake, okay, we need to make sure that we're pushing our sets close to failure if we want to maximize muscle growth. Okay, so within 2 reps or taking to failure is what we want to get to if we want to maximize muscle growth. If we're less than that, I don't want to say that you're wasting your time in the gym, but you're definitely being inefficient with your time if you're leaving too many reps in reserve, especially for your working sets. Now, number 3 is not pushing the target muscle to its limits. Okay, now this is kind of similar to not training hard enough, but a little bit different, and I'm going to explain why. When we get to those hard, more burning reps, especially when we get into the last couple of reps, it's going to feel hard. It's going to feel like the muscle is on fire. Okay. And instinctively, we want to try and get away from that. We want to try and maybe incorporate other muscle groups. Say if we're doing a bench press, we want to try and incorporate the shoulders more, or maybe we might cut the range of motion so we won't go down as far, or potentially we'll come down and we'll go super fast in that stretch because that's where it hurts the most, and then we'll just bounce off. Okay. This is not what we want to do. As I said, last couple of reps before failure are the most growth promoting. So we've done the hard work to get there. Now we need to milk these reps as best we can. Okay, so make sure that we're controlled, making sure that we're keeping tension on that target muscle. We're not trying to incorporate other muscle groups. We're not trying to cut the range of motion short. We're putting the muscle to the flame. This is something that I like to talk about with my clients, is making sure that if we've done the work to get there and get to these growth promoting reps, that we really make sure that we hold the muscle to the flame and we milk it for everything it's got so we can get as many gains as we can out of those reps. Okay, so about maximizing your time in the gym, and that means that we need to maximize these last reps before failure and really leverage them to make sure we can grow as much muscle in that period of time that we're in the gym as we can. Mistake number 4, slowing down rep speed too much. Now you may see this in isolation exercises where you're going really slow on the way down, really slow on the way up, trying to get that mind-muscle connection. Okay. Now, in research, they've shown that rep speeds between 2 and 8 seconds roughly result in the same amount of muscle growth as long as that set is taken close to failure. Now, you may say, well, it doesn't really matter then. However, they also found that in the ultra slow reps, so something closer to like 8 seconds per rep, resulted in significantly less strength gains. Now, strength and muscle growth in the short term aren't great proxies. However, over a long period of time, and especially if you're doing sets over 5 reps, strength gain and muscle growth are really tightly correlated. Now, I'm going to get a little bit sciencey here, so stay with me. I promise it's going to make sense. Okay. Neurological adaptation is how we're going to get most of our strength gains in the short term. Pretty much all it means is you're just going to get more efficient at doing the exercise, so therefore you're able to lift more weight. However, that maxes out pretty quickly, and then any strength gain that you see beyond that point, especially if you're doing more than 5 reps, is mostly going to come from muscle growth, okay, from just having more muscle mass to be able to move the weight. So therefore, we want to make sure that we're getting stronger at the exercise over time. We also know that doing slow concentrics reduces motor unit recruitment. Okay, so especially the higher motor units, which are the more type 2 muscle fibers, which are more fast twitch, okay, and also more prone to growing. So my recommendation is you can still use a slow eccentric, so we can go slow on the way down, but we want to be explosive on the way up, safely obviously, but we still want to be explosive on the way up. That way we can maximize our strength gain, which over the long term is going to mean that we're going to be able to grow muscle. We're also going to be able to recruit these larger muscle fibers to make sure that we're able to grow muscle and get stronger over time. Another little caveat with doing ultra slow reps for high reps is that it's hard to tell if we're actually coming close to failure. A lot of the times you might be just getting bored of the reps because you're doing so many and so slow and it's taking too long, or everything just burns so you just stop. It's hard to know if you're actually stopping because you're close to failure. Now, number 5 is not progressing in the secondary lifts. Now, similar to mistake number 2, where people don't really push their secondary lifts as hard, a lot of times people won't progress at their secondary lifts. So often, you probably would have done this, I know I've done this in the past, is you might be doing a lateral raise. You'll do the same weight for the same amount of reps, and you'll do that for months on end, okay? If you have any exercises in your program like this, you're probably, I'm just gonna say it, it's probably a waste of time. Okay, you're not going to be growing muscle because you're not getting stronger over time. So therefore, you're not building muscle mass to be able to increase the reps or increase the weight. Okay, so either you want to swap those exercises out, or you just want to make sure that you're prioritizing progressive overload at that movement. Okay, it is just as important to get stronger over time at your secondary lifts as it is with your primary lifts. Even if your main goal is to get stronger at a primary lift, you want to make sure that you are still progressing at, say, if your primary lift is bench press, you still want to make sure that you're progressing at your chest flies, progressing at your tricep push down, because ultimately, if you can grow muscle doing those exercises, it's going to come together and make you stronger for your primary lifts. So often you see this with powerlifters. Powerlifters want to maximize their bench press, but they also do a lot of secondary lifts to try and grow muscle so that they can use that extra muscle mass to transfer into making them stronger at their priority exercise. So as I sort of spoke about before, making sure that any sets that we have laid out, we want to make sure that we're as efficient as possible. So any sets or any exercise that we have, we want to make sure that we're taking those sets close to failure. And we want to make sure over time that we're trying to progress those exercises as best we can so that we can maximize our time in the gym to make sure we're leveraging as much growth as possible. So final thoughts, you might see a common theme with this, guys. They want to make sure we're having sufficient intensity to make sure we're making the most out of our time in the gym. We don't want to be wasting time with warm up. We want to get into that as quickly as you can. Okay. As I said, majority of people are bottlenecked by the amount of time they have in the gym. So you want to maximize that as much as you can. If you are getting close to those last few reps where it's getting super growth promoting, double down on it. You've done the hard work to get to the gym, to get to that exercise where you're actually taking it close to failure. Double down on it. Make sure you're getting the most out of it. Really want to make sure that you're being efficient with your time in the gym. You don't need a heap of time in the gym, but especially if you are doing these things right. Okay, so try to avoid these mistakes, guys. If you want me to do a deeper dive into any of these, let me know. I'd be more than happy to do so. But until next time, I'll see you in the next one.